here we go, going live. Are we live? Yes, we are. Let me check the volume. Okay.
Ooh.
All right, we're good. You're good to go. Uh-oh. I got it open on another window. I got the sound open on another window, damn it. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. This, didn't want this. There we go. Get that off of there. Okay. It's just going to hear myself echo 2 minutes sooner. Hey, Arden. How you doing, buddy? Oh, man. What a weekend. Welcome to the live stream. Hollywoke Hot Take Live. Going to check the trades, check the box office. I'm not going to get too deep tonight. I am fried from the weekend. What a weekend it was. First I did Collingswood Book Fair in the rain. We're getting the remnants of Hurricane Ian up here. JEC, hi. The remnants of Hurricane Ian. And so we were in the high school. And the Collingswood people are really good. They're really nice people. I enjoy doing their show. So I'm not throwing shade when I say this because it was true. They are meticulous when they plan the street tables, and it was great. But they didn't seem to have a plan for going inside to the gym in the high school, so it was a bit chaotic. Ardent, LOL, was setting my new studio up and got distracted. Glad to see I got here on time. Yes, you did. What's wrong, Joan? We just started. Are you going to bail already? Oh, you just had egg. You're feisty. You're a feisty dog. Oh, you all right? All right, good. You want to get down or are you going to hang out? All right, I'll pet your tummy. So long story, slightly longer. It was a great show anyway. We got interrupted by a fire drill. It was chaos. But a good show. Solid Saturday show. And then I did today, Vineland Public Library hosted FanCon, which was their own version of a comic book show. And when the libraries do them, sometimes they're really good because they tend to be better financed, and they're not a bunch of fanboys putting on the show, if you know what I mean. So they don't have the distraction of like being too enthralled by the guest. They just try to they treat everybody mostly equally because they don't really they're not totally tuned in to the scene, man. And so they just try to like put on a decent show for everybody. And that's kind of the way you got to be a little more neutral when you do these events. And so it was really, that one was surprised. I didn't realize how good it was. Now, part of it was it friggin' poured after we got into the building. And there was a big flea market in town, but that was outside. So I think a lot of people going to the flea market, apparently, from people I talked to, stopped in on the show and were coming in. So it was a great day. Great day. But I'm a little wiped out. So Joan is looking on the floor, so say bye to Joan. Bye, everybody. Goodbye. I'm a dog. I'm going to go disrupt things now. All right, try not to pee on anything. And don't bark, Joan. For once, she may not pee on anything. That's the weird thing about Joan. Like, she goes a scary long time without going outside to pee sometimes, and I go, she must have peed. She must have peed somewhere, and I can't, and she's a little dog, so I can't find it. And it's like, Joan, why don't you just go pee outside? And I take her outside, and she won't go, and it's because she already went somewhere in the house, and I don't know where. But she's so tiny, like, you don't find it sometimes. Because she's literally so tiny it dries up. And then maybe you see a stain on the floor when you go to clean the floor or something. It's gross. I know. I'm talking about dog pee. I shouldn't do that. Thus my life. Anyhow. Let's get into some headlines. This was a weird headline. Actor Kevin Sorbo. I'd get an Oscar nomination if I played a radical Islamic pedophile terrorist. Conservative actor and director. I gotta pause this. I don't know why this is playing. Conservative actor and director says Hollywood missing huge market of 80 million that wants more positive, family-friendly movies. Yeah, he's totally right. I didn't know he directed stuff too. I wonder what he directed. Let's look up Kevin Sorbo. You only think of Hercules, but probably did some low budget thing. Let's see. As an actor, he has 154 credits. That's pretty solid. He was in a lot of stuff. Holy cow. Where's director? Okay. So director, he has 6 credits. That's pretty good. So he directed some of the Hercules. He directed something, Let There Be Light. That sounds kind of quasi-religious. Miracle in East Texas. That definitely sounds like, if not religious, conservative, right? Left Behind, The Rise of the Antichrist. If that's not religious, nothing is. Not Too Far From Home, and A Light in the Woods. So, yeah, he's doing stuff. Oh, wow, he was on Cheers as a bar patron back in the 90s. But I think he has a point, you know. Wow, he's in a lot of stuff. Look at him. He's in a lot of stuff currently. This is 2022 creds. The Street Adventure, Used Mercs. I mean, look, I never heard of that stuff, but, I mean, The Unearthly, Speed Shift Origins, Off the Grid, Loaded Deck, Hope, a Rambo fan film. How did that get on here? I don't think fan films should be on the IMDb. No offense. Final Invasion, Dragon Man, The Adventures of Luke Starr, A Light in the Woods, Hangtown, and Ghost Killer. Man, that's a lot of credits for 2022, and they're all in pre-production. And oh wait, these are in in post-production. Devil's Night, Left Behind, The Rise of the Antichrist, The Pastor, Bezos. Who is he in Bezos? That's completed. Is he? I guess is he Bezos? Is he Jeff Bezos? That'd be wild if he was Jeff Bezos. No, it looks like Billy Zane. No, Antonio Guterres. JC, he does a lot of religious films. Yeah, looks that way. But he's second bill in this Bezos film. Bezos chronicles the true life story of Jeff Bezos. Huh. Based on Zero to Hero. That one ain't religious. Oh, there he is. Look, he's got a mustache on. He's the guy who goes, "You'll never do it, Jeff. Just give up." Just give up, Jeff. No one's gonna buy things off the internet. That's a fad. You're wasting your life. But good for him. Good for him. He's still working. Wow. I can't believe how much work he has. Seriously, that's a lot of work. I mean, they're big name guys who don't get this much work. He's better off, right? I mean, like, if these are all religious films, I don't think they are. I think a lot of them are, but I mean, certainly that fan film that does not count. That does not count. I can't look at Nancy Pelosi. Jesus. You know, he's still getting regular work too, so Hollywood still considers him viable, at least. You know, a lot of times the TV actors, I've heard, they don't consider them bankable stars in the box office in movies. Although that's kind of changed a little bit, I think. But that was the old paradigm. Like, if you were a TV actor, it was of no use to you being in a movie. Because when me and a friend were putting together a movie deal, we wanted to cast, what's that chick's name from Lost? Oh, crap. You know, she was on Lost, and then she played the elf in the Hobbit movie. I don't want to look it up, but you know who I mean. Angeline is her last name, right? We wanted to cast her, and this was before her movie credit. And she was in Lost, and we thought, oh, she's perfect. Because part of our deal was we were casting a lot of Canadian actors because there was a big strike. Zachary and Antle. Hey, y'all. Hey, Zach. Good to see you. So we wanted to cast her, and then the distributor was like, oh no, don't cast her. Don't put her in your proposal. And we were like, why? He was like, oh, she's a TV actor. Like, that doesn't count. You got to get somebody with box office. So then we picked somebody else. Somebody, I can't think of her name either, but this was a while back. So, yeah, like TV credits aren't as good in terms of movies, but I think that's like changing a lot now because the movies and TV are kind of like merging on the internet a little bit, and TV's becoming a little more high profile because, well, it's not really TV, it's more streaming, right? So it's like streaming high end, I guess you'd call it, you know, because you got all these actors, pretty famous ones, doing streaming stuff. I don't know if it's a result of streaming being more high end or just the fact that celebrity doesn't pull their weight anymore, right? It's like people don't really care about celebrities like they used to. Back in the day, man, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was in something, oh, we were all in line. We were like, oh, Arnold's going to be in a new movie. He's going to kill a bunch of dudes. This will be awesome. You know, so there were guys who just had... there goes Joan. All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'll allow it, Joan. You're barking. Just don't keep it up. If it keeps up, I may have to go get her. Ardent, Ghost Killer sounds like it might be interesting. Yeah. And he plays a detective. JEC, screw your freedom. Right, Arnold. This was before Screw Your Freedom. This was when he was like super American. And he was all about Reagan, and he was doing the president's like Council of Health or whatever. Zachary. And the writing on TV is becoming so good and nuanced that big Hollywood actors are jumping ship for TV now, that because that's where the good writing is. Yeah, sometimes. I don't know. Did you see Rings of Power? I don't know. There's still a lot of bad TV, but I see what you're saying. For the high-end stuff, yeah. JEC, never going to let that go, LOL. Yeah, Screw Your Freedom was that was so weird coming of all people, coming out of his mouth. Because he was all about, I mean, they were at one point, when he was California governor, talking about changing the law so he could run for president. And believe me, if he could have made that work, he would have. But I don't think he did all that well as California governor. But compared to Gavin Newsom, he was a friggin', I don't know, the best governor in the world. Ardent, an Austrian artist who is authoritarian. Who would have thought it? Screw your freedom. Yes. I mean, the memes write themselves when it comes to Arnold. All right, you calm down, Joan? All right, you're getting in here a little bit. Good. But yeah, back in the day, you know, just Arnold being in anything. Oh, that was gold, baby. That was money in the bank. And then he made that The Last Action Hero, and oof, that took the sheen right off of him. God, what a terrible, terrible concept, I think. Zach, all I know is it seems like big stars will be in big comic book movies to get paid and then be in little indie movies to actually act. There's no in between. Well, that's kind of what Hollywood does. I mean, and actually, Kevin Smith made fun of this in what I consider one of his good movies, Jay and Silent Bob Fight Back. So there was a moment where, I don't know, they were shooting a sequel to, I mean, it was fake. It was a sequel to the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck movie, the one that got them all big. What the hell was it called? The one with Robin Williams. You know the one. Good Will Hunting 2. That was it. Right? So that's like the joke. And then it was like, well, why are you doing this? And it was like, well, so he could do the indie movie. And that's the deal. Like you do the studio movie, and now superhero movies are the studio movie because they make so much money. So that's like paying your dues so you could do the movie you actually want to do. Uh, Zach, and it doesn't help most audience seemingly don't want to see anything that isn't comic book movie or something similar anymore. Well, I think they've been so burned by everything, not just movies, but just life. I mean, just going out the door. I mean, I'm still today was a mask day where I saw so many people in mask, and that was sad to see because I was starting to go out and see almost no mask, and today I saw so many people in mask, and that was really sad. And you really want to just, and these are young people. These weren't old people. I think there were a few of them were old. A couple of them were old, but man, you see them in the face mask and you go, "What the hell, man?" And I'm so tempted every time I see one to lecture them, and I really have to stop myself. Don't start the argument. Do not talk to these people that way. They'll never buy your book. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Shut up! Yeah. JC, The Last Action Hero wasn't the worst movie. Just when you're at the point of parodying yourself, your shtick is played out. Yeah. 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 Ardent. Bluntman and Chronic would have been better. They sort of did that in that movie, you know? I don't know. Bluntman and Chronic as a whole movie, I think the thing with Kevin is he had some okay ideas, but he was a guy whose screenwriting skills just weren't there. I mean, they were almost there. Like, he could do about 40% of the work. And then he just, I don't know, like Chasing Amy has this bizarre ending, right? And I want it, but the opening is solid. Like, you watch the opening of Chasing Amy with the comic book stuff, it's freaking solid as hell and kind of funny. And then you get towards the end and you're just like, why are you spiraling down into this rabbit hole, Kevin? Why has it gone here? This is not the place to go. But I don't know. Zach, I miss mid-budget movies, or at least blockbusters that aren't Marvel or DC. Yeah, but there's almost no reason to go to the theaters. I mean, like, I saw Old Henry, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Old Henry, it's fucking, effing phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good. I won't ruin it for you by talking about it any further than that. But Old Henry, you gotta see that movie. It's so freaking good. And I love westerns when they're good. When the westerns are good, they're so amazing. And that in the past, I think it got a limited release, but like, people don't come out for those movies anymore. They just don't. Like, people like me go because I'm a movie head, and I go to art house films, and although these days I don't see much of anything. I'd rather watch it on my computer screen. But if I have a date, that's where I'm heading. That's where I'm taking her. that's my whole move. Like, all right, you want to go to the movies? And I'll take her to art house movies to show her how clever I am and how much I know about movies. And there tend to be better movies. Some of them are very pretentious, but if you know what to pick, usually you're okay. But there's not a whole lot of reason beyond that. Like, people will see stuff on Netflix now. It's just on Netflix. It's on HBO Max. There's just no reason to pay the money. That's too much money to go to damn movies. So they're just not making it for the theaters anymore. There's no reason to. If they cut the prices, which is, again, what they should be doing, to get people back in the theaters after the pandemic, what they should have done is announced in 2022, $5 movies. If the studios had to subsidize it, just so the theaters would still play them, and just say, listen, we'll literally make almost nothing and give you the damn movie to play, but just only charge $5. If they had done that, everybody would have come flooding back to the movies, and then you could have clicked up the price. But they just won't do it. Zach, I thought there was a chance for change when The Revenant made 500. You wrote 500 billion, but I assume you mean half a billion at the box office. Yet here we are. I don't know. Revenant was still a pretty big movie. It was Leonardo DiCaprio, pretty much the biggest male lead, and Tom Hardy, whose star was pretty high profile, on the rise, pretty solid. Those are pretty big leads. It wasn't a cheap movie to make, so it had a lot of money behind it. So yeah, I don't know if I'd go with Revenant, but there've been plenty of other movies, small movies, that should have. Old Henry is a perfect example. I don't think that was a super expensive movie to shoot, because it was mostly shot outside, not a tremendous amount of locations, all around barns and old cabins. So, if that movie cost more than, I don't know, $20 million to shoot, I think that they're pretty luxurious. Ardent, gasp, language. Ardent, Tubi is on free, and has some amazing films. Yes, I agree. Tubi is pretty good. At some point, I don't know what they're going to do to make money. I don't know how they make money yet, but I think that's the new, that's going to be the new paradigm. They're gonna offer stuff for free, and then they'll have a commercials on it or whatever, or I forget what Tubi has. I think Tubi has commercials, don't they? Maybe some ads. I don't remember. I did see some stuff on there. It was decent. Certainly decent. It's all about the money too. It's like, if you see something for free versus what you paid $15 for, like, your bar is much higher for $15. If you see it for nothing, then you're kind of like willing to give it a shot. That's why I think, these streamers, man, they got their heads up their butts. Zach, my fave era to film is the 70s. The movies were kind of arty, experimental, but still told coherent story, and they weren't totally lost in artifice with nothing real to say. Right. They were, that was the cinema renaissance in the American cinema. I mean, it was an amazing time. And I didn't really appreciate how good those movies were until we hit the 80s, and then I was like, man, I mean, I wanted to have fun, but not this much fun. How about some coherent storylines? How about, less saccharin in my movie, Steven Spielberg? So, yeah, I mean, the 70s, man, there's so much that came out of that, and they were telling gritty, real-life stories. At that time, they were opening it up. People were taking drugs on screen. Not for real, although maybe for real. They were doing cool stuff. And there were people still in Hollywood with vision. And, part of it was the hippie movement was opening things up, and it opened things up in art. But they were still business people with vision. Like, there's nothing better than a patron of the arts who is willing to, who knows enough to pick a talented guy out and then give him money and leave him alone. Maybe you keep him on a short leash so he doesn't go totally out of control. But, now we just have these guys who, they're kind of artists. Like, Zack Snyder is kind of an artist. He can make a decent visual, but I wouldn't call the guy a filmmaker. I just wouldn't. Maybe he's a cinematographer. Like, if I was going to shoot, like, an action movie, like the Jersey Devil action movie based on my comic, yeah, I would love to have Zack Snyder make the visuals, but I wouldn't want him to direct it. I would want to stand on his head go, no, Zack, it's got to be a story. No, the dialogue's important. Stop shining the light into the camera and listen to me. Same thing with Michael Bay. Although Michael Bay, Pain and Gain, that's a really decent flick. And the first Transformers is decent. I like that one. But he he's another guy. I think he's better at visuals than he is at story, and he kind of goes off the rails if you give him too much leash. Um, you know, but this is why, like, Martin Scorsese, he's from that era, and he's so good. Although The Irishman was a bit of a disappointment. But it's almost like, for of course Scorsese, he's gotten older, and he's kind of almost run out of mafia stuff to do almost at this point from that era. I wish he'd move on to something else. If he's going to do a mafia movie, do something wildly different in that genre, but it's also about what you can get greenlit. Ardent, there's lots of 70s stuff on Tubi. Oh, I didn't notice that. I have to check out Tubi again. Zach, never been into superhero, sci-fi, or war movies. Always been way more into character drama-based stuff. Drama, horrors, thrillers. Yeah, I mean, I think that goes for, though, any movie. Like, it's got to have a good character and a story, and, I think it's good. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it doesn't matter, how cool it looks or how gritty it is. Ardent, Tubi shows the occasional commercial. Yeah, I thought it did. It's been a while. I forget what I even watched on it. It was James Franco's brother in I want to say a movie. Zach, but then again, that's also what audiences wanted at the time. Then Star Wars happened, and studio execs realized that it's easier to fry people dopamine receptors over and over again. Well, but like, see, Star Wars was different. Star Wars is like Superman. It was like the first of its kind. That's different. So at that time, and look, Star Wars is way better than most of the other Star Wars movies, except for Empire. Empire's the best. And you look at Empire, and it's pretty good. Ends on a downer. So it wasn't so much about that. The effects a lot more practical, and they were really hard to do at that time. So it was a little different. But like, I know what you're saying. But it wasn't really until the 80s that they started doing that. There were a bunch of Star Wars ripoffs right after Star Wars, and they all sucked in the early 80s. Oh man. Battle Beyond the Stars. Watch that sometime if you want to lose 90 minutes of your life. Otherwise known as John Boy in Space, because the guy who played John Boy was the main character. It's brutal. It's a brutal movie with tons of effects at that time and crazy aliens, and it's just not a good movie. There's a bunch of movies like that at that era. Zachary, which I guess audiences wanted and still want now. Sad. JC, Irishman felt like an old man's movie. It really did. And, that, it just didn't work. The CGI just didn't work because the body language didn't work. And when De Niro goes to beat up that guy, it looks like an old man doing it, but he's got a slightly younger face on. It was weird. He doesn't move like a guy who's going to, like, kill you. He moves like a guy who's just moving, He's not going to fall down, but he just... I watched it, and I'm just like, oof, that doesn't look good. They thought this would look good? I mean, a stunt man would have looked good. Back in the day, they would have had a stunt guy. Like, that's the guy they needed. What they needed to do was cast a guy who sort of looked like De Niro, but who was in his 40s and in big, good shape. Then deep fake De Niro's face over him, and... have De Niro do the voice and the acting, and then have this guy do the fight scene at least. Zachary, just imagine a movie like Network or Chinatown these days making crocs of S-Cash. I can't personally. You could if you told the truth. The problem is people are so... spun around by the news and all the propaganda. You have to understand too, back in the 70s, we watched television news and we were all on the same page. Walter Cronkite was on TV. He was the most trusted name in news. And if you heard it from him, you generally thought, okay, yeah, that's what's happening. They showed the Vietnam on TV, like people getting killed on television. Like, I saw it as a little kid, glimpses of it. I was like, I don't know, really young back then. I was like 5, and I remember watching the TV one time. I saw these guys in army helmets, and then like blood, and I was just like, huh? And then one of the adults reached over and went, oh. Like, I didn't quite know, I couldn't put it together at the time. Years later, I went, oh my God, I must have saw somebody get killed on TV. But they would show that stuff. Now they wouldn't dare show that stuff, or if they did, it would be like, well, today the terrible Russians shot one of our soldiers, and here's the footage. Oh, we have to go to war because we're propagandizing you. That's the difference. So somebody has to do something that is really, really truthful, like Network, Chinatown's more of a different thing, but Network, and it would resonate if you really ripped apart big tech and everything else. But you'd have to get Alex Jones to write the damn thing and produce it. They'd never give you the distribution. They're too busy astroturfing all these other movies for political reasons. I just looked at this trailer for Manifest West, and I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like a slam against people who want to live off the grid and rednecks in general, because Tim Heidecker is in it, and that guy, in my view, he's got sheer TDS. I mean, he hates Trump. He tried to do a podcast, I guess he's still doing it, where he's very, very left. And this has got another comedian who I think he's letting his politics ruin his comedy. Just absolutely ruin it. But I was never a huge fan of the whole meta comedy scene anyway, but it's a shame. JEC felt like an old man facing getting old and dying. Yeah, The Irishman was that, but like, it wasn't good. And they said part of the problem with that book was the guy who wrote it may have lied about a ton of the stuff. The only thing that saved that movie was Al Pacino, right? His performance was pretty spectacular as Jimmy Hoffa. I mean, he was engaging, and then the moment he's dead, like, that movie's dead with it, I think. And it's just, it's weird too. Like, they keep putting Pacino and De Niro in movies together because they think magic's gonna happen again, and it's like they did what was that, Righteous Kill? Ugh, yeah, that was brutal. I couldn't even watch the whole damn thing. It was so like, what the F are they doing here, man? Zach, Scorsese's new movie is gonna be about native tribes in the 20s getting murdered for oil on their land. True story, and sounds super interesting to me. De Niro is the villain. Okay, cool. That sounds cool. I mean, yeah, that sounds way better than The Irishman. I mean, the other thing The Irishman had going for it was the return of Joe Pesci, which everybody kind of wanted to see, and that was sadly, like, he was good in it too, but it was just kind of like, oh man, he had to return here. Although Pesci kind of ruined himself in comedy, doing all those Lethal Weapon movies, and I don't know, it was weird. And Pesci was also in, although the one comedy movie he's in that's hilarious is Easy Money. He is great in that, and so is Rodney Dangerfield. If you haven't seen Easy Money, that's another good movie. This was another highlight of this week. Bill Maher calls on Biden to replace Kamala Harris as VP, and his liberal audience applauds. Did anybody see this? I didn't see this, but I guess I could. I got HBO Max. Sometimes, you get articles from the right side of things, and they maybe they slightly exaggerated this, but JC Pesci played a real understated character. He was great in Home Alone. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he's great in that. He's just good, but he kind of wore out his welcome, I think, with the Lethal Weapon thing. It was like, for some reason, like, those movies, the later ones, they did super well, but they were kind of super annoying at the same time. And I really liked the early ones. And then later I kind of tuned out. But But yeah, Bill Maher calling on Biden to replace Kamala Harris. Like, I mean, I guess I don't know who you would replace her with. Quite frankly, I mean, they have like no bench on the DNC side. I mean, I guess you could replace her with someone like Klobuchar, but God, I think she'd be worse. I think the one saving grace of Kamala Harris is that she is incompetent, and she wouldn't be able to wield the levers of power with any kind of alacrity. So even her half-ass schemes to, like, I don't know, racially profile everybody in America would fall apart because just be too stupid to figure out how to put it all together. Whereas Amy Klobuchar, I mean, she's got some plans, and I don't like any of them. I don't know. There's no one neutral left in the Democratic Party. Like somebody totally white bread, moderate type that just would, like, okay, like a Gerald Ford. The Democrats need a Gerald Ford to just take over for Biden and not do anything until his term's over. Just like Gerald Ford. Like Gerald Ford did like nothing. And totally forgettable in my view. But Kamala Harris would try to do stuff, I think. But it's amazing, though, I think, that he calls for her replacement at all. Zach, I think my favorite Scorsese movie is Taxi Driver or Casino. I wish there were more movies like these now that were actually successful. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do love Taxi Driver. And Casino as well. Ardent, Tulsi Gabbard, not a chance, man. You're dreaming. You're absolutely dreaming. I wouldn't mind Tulsi. And she would not be, Gerald Ford. She wouldn't be quiet. She's got a lot of wacky views too, but she is at least seems relatively honest and would try to. I don't think she would destroy the economy. At least she would probably open up drilling and maybe get us back on some sort of sane energy policy. But yeah, I don't think there's a chance in hell. They've basically drummed her out of the Democratic Party until it implodes. Then maybe after it's completely destroyed, she could walk in and take it over. But what would be the point at that time? I think what she should do is probably take over the Green Party. But they might be the next step for the Democrats, the actual moderate Dems. But I mean, nobody's really making any moves toward it. Andrew Yang's doing some wacky scheme. I don't think that's going to work. So there's really no place for her. She can't be in the GOP. Her views are, very left on particular issues. She entertains UBI. I mean, she can't be in the GOP, really. I don't see it. But Ardent. A, sorry. O, yeah, I had to. C, couldn't help myself. AOC, I wouldn't put it past the Democrats nominating her, but I don't think there's any chance in hell that she would get in. I think Nancy Pelosi would step in before her. Nancy Pelosi would technically be the next person in line, right, after Kamala. So it might be her. Honestly, I don't think she could do worse than Biden. I don't know if she would support all this nonsense. I really don't. I mean, she's pretty terrible. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I think Nancy Ardent UBI, seriously? Yeah. I mean, she entertains it. I don't know how strongly she supports it, but she talked about that. Nancy, I think, she's a money person. She's pretty greedy. I mean, I'm sure she'd be stealing with both hands, but maybe she would open up the energy sector a little. That's really the key now. I don't know. I mean, she's being more coherent than Biden. Ardent, yeah, Speaker is up next, and dear God, she couldn't do worse than Biden, but why chance it? Yeah. That's always a factor too. Somehow Kamala Harris is so deeply unpopular. I mean, I don't know how she manages to be so stupid, but she could actually be worse than Biden. I mean, she really. But then she's so bad, I think to myself, is this part of her act? Is this why she was chosen? Was she told, listen, we'll make you the VP, but you have to look worse than Biden so everybody wants to keep him? Like, I seriously think that could be her function. Like, they're just like, no, you can't, do not go to the border. We made you border czar so you would get trounced, and you're taking the heat off of Joe, so this is perfect. I mean, they probably have that much control over her, I would say. This is the big game. I don't put anything past these people, these elaborate schemes. But at the same time, maybe they're just screamingly incompetent, which is in some ways scarier, right? That they're so screamingly incompetent that they put two people in charge that are just, they're just terrible. They're just utterly terrible at their jobs. Joe's stealing everything when he's not completely demented, and she's just, I didn't even know she's smart enough to steal anything. Zach, I'm just hoping they introduce an age cutoff for running for president. I'd say 65 should be the cutoff. You know, I think there should be a test. Number one, and Biden is clearly demented, and I don't think the founders foresaw a time when people would be so political that they'd be willing to put a dementia patient in office, assuming he would play ball and be the right, party or whatever. I want Trump to run and win, and he will be almost as old as Biden. And he's way better. I mean, Biden was demented before he got in office. During his entire run, he was saying stupid things, and they wouldn't let him out of the damn basement. So, Trump is approaching that age, but I think he's way sharper than him. And even before that, even before Biden ran, they were talking about how bad he was getting, that he couldn't possibly run for president. So 65, I think that's probably a little too low, but I would put it at the same age as retirement for Social Security. So what is that now, 70? I think it's at 70. So maybe like 70, or at 70 you have to go through a physical checkup and a cognitive test, like it's mandatory, and then if you fail it or don't score high enough, you're done at the end of your term, something like that. And then at 80 would be the absolute max. 80 would be mandatory, because people are living longer, and there is some wisdom in people who are older. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm older, but I don't know. 65 seems a little low. I would go at least 70. Zach, it says something when Biden makes Bush Jr. look really good by comparison. Yeah, it took me a long time to get on that bandwagon, but I'm there. Biden is the worst. I mean, I hated W. I thought W was an absolute clown, horror show, a-hole. Terrible. I think he should be in prison for the rest of his life. But somehow Biden is worse. He's much worse. The damage Biden does, and the sad thing about it too is, like, Bush, you can almost point to the numbers and know exactly how many people he killed. Biden will never know. Like, it's the number. First off, the number's so high, and it's all indirect. It's all because of his stupid policies and extending lockdowns and doing all this dumb, stupid stuff to the economy. We'll never know how many people truly that he killed, because it's so indirect, But it'll probably be closer to the millions. Whereas Bush, like, you could point to it, like, oh, he definitely killed like a few 100,000 people, like this 250,000 people or whatever. in the Middle East, but like, the impact is mostly over for Bush. After a time, certainly now that we're out of Afghanistan, and a lot of the impact's over, or getting over, and Biden, I mean, it'll be 20 years at least, more even, and I think history will look back on him as very poorly, just very, very poorly, and the whole Biden family, really. And I've always said that when Joe dies, who's going to protect Hunter? I don't know if there's anybody in the DNC that wants to protect Hunter. You think the Clintons want to protect Hunter? I don't think so. Maybe the Obamas, only because of their relationship with Joe, but do they have that much pull? They tried to use some of their pull for Jussie Smollett, and it kind of blew up in their face. So I think Hunter's probably toast when his father dies. The clock, depending on when he dies. I think it could be any day. Would you be surprised if tomorrow Biden was dead? They just said, "Oh, he died in his sleep." Like, he's just way too frail to be president. That's one of the reasons he has to go. And I think it would be better too if he retired and Kamala stepped in the role. As bad as she's going to be even worse if Biden dies tomorrow and she gets sworn in and she's like a deer in the headlights going, "What? I'm president?" And then they have to deal with like, "Oh, we have to remove her from office because we hate her and she's incompetent." But now she's in office. It's a lot harder because you're going to have a reason. You're going to have a legal reason to impeach her. And then it's going to be a process. And if she fights it, it'll be a longer process. And it'll be like, ugh. Meanwhile, like, what is China going to do? What is Russia going to do? We got situations. Whereas, at least if Biden just retires, at least the handlers can continue to handle everything just as poorly as they did before. Ardent, why not just appoint Bill Maher? Well, we would have legalized prostitution and pot, so you make a strong argument. All right, sorry to get into the political soapbox. Let's get back into the important thing. Marvel's Werewolf by Night, their new featurette. I watched this. I can't really show it to you because YouTube. But I don't know if you saw any of the Werewolf by Night stuff, but the featurette doesn't help me like it. I mean, they're going on and on about how they're talking about, "Oh, I love the old horror movies. I love the old horror movies. I love the old horror movies. Oh, we're going to do our own version of the old horror movies." And it just doesn't look anything like the old horror movies, and I don't know. It looks pretty cringe for a guy. For me, I'm like a huge Universal monster movie guy. I watched them all when I was a kid, and I love them. But this doesn't really look like it. Zach, with that being said, I was semi-terrified of Trump dying in office because that would mean President Pence. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm from Indiana, and all I can say is, God, no. Yeah. JC, you got top chats on Tony. I got top chats on Tony? What's that mean? Ardent, this group looks like a pile of outcast misfits who have never seen the inside of a drive-in, if you know what I'm saying. No. Yeah, they're too young to remember these movies. I mean, I guess they saw them on TV or on YouTube at one point. And, like, you love when these actors and actresses are interviewed for these featurettes. That's why I hate them, because they're all so phony. I've done them. Not ones you'd ever see or for real movies, but, for, like, low-budget things. And they're all the same. Oh, you got to say something positive about the movie. JC, it's not showing all the chats. You switched it before and fixed it. It's not? Oh, frig me. The hell. All messages. Oh, crap. Sorry, man. I fixed it now. Must be default on top chats. Did I miss you? Oh, there it is. Holy F. You guys said a bunch of things. You guys said a bunch of things that I missed. Sorry. Sorry, they filtered all your comments. All right. Let me just go back and a little bit. JC, Kamala as president after the midterms will be hilarious. She'll get nothing done and everyone will S on her the entire time. Yes. Oh, you sons of bitches, YouTube. You filter out all this stuff. Can you imagine how these people, I hope the Republicans tear you a new a-hole, YouTube. I really do. Zach, it should tell you something when the Democrats are too insane for even a gay autistic guy like myself. LOL. Oh. Am I going to get flagged for reading these? Who cares? If I get flagged, you know where to find me. I'll start doing them on Rumble, YouTube. Jeez. JC, globalists in China wanted all this. They would want to humiliate America as they dismantle the country. And all they cared about was beating Trump, and they sold their souls to do it. Absolutely, JC. I agree. Thanks for tuning me into that. It's very true. I mean, it's a classic example of what's the phrase, the turn of phrase, where you like you win the battle, lose the war. Zach, by the way, Indiana just enacted tax breaks for film studios, and I keep wondering what's the point. Indiana is about the most boring and unscenic part of the country. Well, it's so somebody will go there and they'll just build a set. It doesn't matter. It's just, it's a money thing. You could always shoot, you could use stock footage. It depends on the budget of the movie. Or if somebody builds a studio, you build like one of those 360-degree studios like they shot The Mandalorian in. It doesn't matter. Zach, can't imagine a screenwriter willing to tell their story there. Oh, I'd tell a story there. Tell a story about going to Gen Con. How crazy woke that became. Ardent, LOL, some of my chat folks say some very spicy things. YouTube holds quite a few until I release them. Oh, weird. But yeah, I don't know. It's werewolf by night thing. I think it's. I just think it's kind of a nothing movie. Zach, plus we're so famous. We're so famous for our wonderfully consistent weather, which you kind of need location shoots. I'm being completely sarcastic, by the way. Yeah, no, look, if you just got a lot of space, you can always just build stuff, You can build sound stages, and you could just shoot stuff in the woods. I mean, they shot, I always like to point out in the Sopranos episode that took place in the Pine Barrens, I don't think they shot it in the Pine Barrens because the trees are all wrong. But, I mean, it's considered a classic episode of the Sopranos when they're in the Jersey Pines. So, but it didn't look like there were any pine trees in it. And if you're in the Pine Barrens, it's pretty much all pine trees. And sand, which they also didn't show. But it was snowing, so the ground could have been frozen, whatever. But, yeah, so the Werewolf by Night thing, it just looks like a nothing movie. They're already saying, oh, we're going to do something different. We're going to do something different. Like, I don't think that's really going to help you. And what's the point of not tying it into the other Marvel movies so much? It just, I don't know. I don't know if this could have even been a good movie. It was sort of a reflection. The comic was a reflection of the times, which was like post Universal Monster movies, which everybody loved. But this comic came out, I don't know, like 30, 40 years after that, and was big because you had a bit of a nostalgia for it, and it was on TV. And now, I don't even know. Half the audience is going to go, oh, was this a thing? So, there's so much stuff online that could be exploited for a movie. It's a wonder that Hollywood hasn't gotten up to that yet. JC, doing it in black and white is such a bad idea. I can't get past that. Yeah, and it's too crisp for the black and white. I mean, like, if you're going to do it, like, give me the film scratches at least, or shoot it on film. Ardent, is this Marvel's attempt at Joker? If it is, it doesn't look anything like that. Zach, one movie I'm hyped for is Bones and All. That looks straight up my alley. I just looked at the trailer. Now, one of the commenters raved about the movie, said it's sort of an allegory of the left eating itself. That would be the only thing that would make me see that movie. But otherwise, I don't know how I could get behind a protagonist who's a cannibal. I kind of can't get past it, but I don't know, maybe. WandaVision starting in black and white almost had me tuning out, says Ardent. Zach, I also really loved the Leonard Cohen song in the trailer. I guess that was... Oh, is that his song? No wonder I like the music in that trailer. That is a good song. I did really like the music. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, everybody's raving about it. Maybe it's good, but I kind of can't get past the cannibalism. Rumor, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to don the classic yellow suit in Deadpool 3. So I think this movie will be good. This will be a good superhero movie. The Deadpool movies have been good. Ardent, I mean, they were... JC says to Ardent, I mean, they were parroting like the Dick Van Dyke Show in the first few episodes. Yeah, and like, you got to be as old as me to even... And like, I watched the Dick Van Dyke Show when I was a kid on reruns. But they had already, at that point, been on the TV for 20 years. So, who's alive to even know that? I mean, it's just too old. It's just too old to do a parody of, in my view. Zach and Ardent, you want it darker? I think it's called. But yeah, I think Deadpool 3 will be watchable. Pretty good. First two are great. I love them. I love the second one. Second one's good. I love the first one too. And I did not like Deadpool as a comic. Never really got into it. I kind of appreciated it, that it was trying to be funny. Sometimes it was, but I didn't read a lot of it. I wouldn't really buy it on the reg. I knew one of the guys who wrote for it. I was a little jealous that I couldn't get that gig. Because I would have been perfect for Deadpool. Oh God, I would have been perfect for that gig. Even though if I had my choice of X-Men comic, it would probably be the last comic I would pick. But I'd be perfect for it. JC, I mean, I know the Dick Van Dyke Show, but I'm a weirdo. Well, how old are you? I mean, I'm 56, and, you know, I'm watching it as a teenager in the middle of the day. Actually, sooner than that, I think I watched it. I was probably coming out of grammar school watching that show. And I liked it. But, like, my parents would even watch me watching it going, you're watching that old show? Zach, my dream movie would either be a James Bond movie or a biopic of Frank Lloyd Wright. I think the latter sounds more interesting to me. Zach, as far as directing a movie myself, oh, okay. Yeah, it would be great to direct a James Bond. I think I have a good pitch for James Bond. But, you know, I want to take him back to the Cold War. I think that's the only way to save it. JC, I'm 36. I grew up with VHS of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, so I like Dick Van Dyke. Oh, I remember that movie. Yeah, it's good. That's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's weird. Magical car, but yeah. So yeah, if I had to choose James Bond, I would love to fix James Bond. I think I could fix James Bond. I would put him back in the Cold War, and there he would stay forever, and then the movie would work again, and I'd probably do something that would be very much like an Ian Fleming novel. Because you could in that time period. If you're going to do a modern thing, I think you need a new character. Ardent, which X-Men character would you like to write, direct, solo flick for? or would you have to be a team ensemble? Which one would I want to do? Ardent, I'd love to have a crack at Nightcrawler biopic. He's okay. I mean, I think that would be fun. But what would I do if I had to do the X-Men? I mean, yeah, I'd rather do a team. That's a tough one to fix because you kind of got to start at zero with the X-Men to fix it. It's so all over the map. I'd like to get back to the Danger Room. I'd like to do the Hellfire Club correctly. They didn't do the Hellfire Club right, in my view. I would like to do the whole thing like Chris Claremont wrote it. But at this point, I don't know. If I had to pick a solo character, geez. I don't know. X-Men's not really about being solo. I don't know if I'd want to do it as a movie. I wouldn't mind writing the X-Men. I would fix them, fix the hell out of them. My premise to fix the Marvel Universe would be I would restart the universe, and then later I would reveal that the progressive universe still exists and the whole world's just coming unglued, and it's just a mire of degeneracy and awfulness. And everybody hates the X-Men of that world. And then I do a crossover where the good X-Men have to fight the ridiculous progressive X-Men that we have now. And they call them out on all their BS. That would be great. That would be better than anything, in my view. But you could only do that in the comics. I don't think it would work as a movie. I don't think anybody would care by the time I got that kind of power but me, because all the X-Men fans would be long gone. And the ones that I want to read it and rub it in their faces don't even buy the X-Men now. I do like Nightcrawler, though. I mean, I think he's a fun character. I don't think he could do a single, a solo pick with him. It would be fun to do the classic X-Men team of like him, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and the guys that were in that era. They would be fun. I know what one I would do. You could do the Claremont did a great one where it's really a Spider-Man story, but the premise is Kublai Khan, this wizard, turns New York into a medieval fortress, and the X-Men are trapped there, and also Captain America. And so they turn into the medieval versions of themselves, and they have to fight Kublai Khan, and some of them fight for Kublai Khan, and some of them fight in the resistance. But Spider-Man is the same, and he's basically doing this to kill Spider-Man because he hates him for some reason. And then, so you get all the medieval versions of the X-Men. That would be a pretty fun movie. It's an awesome comic story, by the way, if you haven't read it. Zach, I grew up watching The Nanny and later got into British comedy at 14, so I love dark comedy especially. My favorite comedy is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Wolf? I think Wolf, by the way. LOL. Cool. JC has some good songs. Rewatching it, all the weirdest stuff. Is the dad telling a story to his kids, but the real film is whimsical in the real world too. That's for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Ardent, come on Tony, the guy's sound effect is Banff. Sam Jackson wishes he was so cool. It's true. Ardent, the Dark Phoenix, that's a pretty good saga, I guess. It's not bad, but I don't think you could do it as a movie. People would have to be up on the mythos, and I just don't, you'd have to set it all up, and you have to reboot the X-Men. So, yeah. I mean, if I was going to reboot the X-Men, I'd just wipe the slate clean, start the whole thing over. But getting into the trades, just briefly, going to have to wrap up soonish. Here's Deadline. Oh, this was the article. Ardent, wasn't Claremont that wrote the story in the comics? Yeah, he wrote the X-Men for almost 20 years. When the X-Men were the hottest comic in comics, and I mean the hottest comic where everybody read the X-Men, that was Claremont. Ardent, or am I thinking the wrong Hellfire Club story now? No, he wrote that one, I think. I'm almost 99% sure he created those characters. Bros. Billy Eichner reacts to disappointing box office results and shares he's proud of this movie. Go F yourself, Eichner. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Yet another guy who decided to yell at his audience, in my view, or a potential audience, I should say, not even his audience. JEC, you need a big Marvel event where some new villain kills all the woke characters in the original Avengers save the day. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I would want. Ardent, yeah, I loved Claremont stories. Zach, my idea for James Bond would be something like a political thriller like The Pelican Brief, something kind of dark and eerie. My bone to pick with James Bond is it has to be set in the real world, and they just refuse to do that now because it's too political. So if you're going to have him, I don't know, go to Afghanistan, he's got to kill Afghanis only because he's in Afghanistan. Right? Like they once did, I forget which one it is. I guess it's Pierce Bronson era. They had this ridiculous terrorist, but like he had worked for every terrorist organization on the planet, and they like were basically trying to imply he was like every terrorist. You know, he was like a mercenary terrorist almost. It made no sense. Like everything in the classic James Bond was Cold War. It was implied they were either Spectre or Soviet. And you understand that, and that makes sense. In today's modern world, you're gonna have to pick somebody, and Hollywood's too afraid. Oh God, we can't have you killing, people of certain descents. But that's what he does. He's a spy. Oh my God, we got a new person come in. Soham, I'm sorry I'm gonna get this name wrong. Deshpande. I'll call you Soham. Hey, good stream. I've got a class, so I'm going to have to say bye for now. Oh, you just got here. New subscriber here. Oh, well, thanks for tuning in, Soham. Welcome. That was great. Anyhow, Billy Eichner was one of these guys, I think. He's basically saying, oh, you got to watch my movie, you're homophobe or whatever. And I just looked at the trailer for Jim Parsons. He's gay, and he's doing a gay love story. And that movie looks okay. I mean, it looks, like here, he's pushing hard the gay angle. It's like, I'm gay. Watch this movie. I'm gay. This is going to be the gayest movie ever. Meanwhile, Jim Parsons just does basically a love story that you could swap out one of the guys with a girl, and it would be the same damn story. So that one looks way superior than this or the Neil Patrick Harris movie. But let's look at the numbers. Ha ha ha. So the surprise thing, and this is all over the trades, is Smile did really well. It did 22 million, which is pretty damn good for a horror movie, which probably wasn't super expensive to shoot. And I gotta say, the movie did look creepy. The trailer did look creepy as F. I kind of don't want to say it's a little too much because there's a scene in it where a girl slits her own throat. Ugh, looks gross. But if you like horror, I mean, I think this is gonna do some business. So it's in 3,600 theaters. Don't Worry, Darling is even in more theaters. I'm just what? It added more theaters, 4,121, and of course it's down 62% because it's the second week. It only did 7.3 million, but it's number 2. Woman King still hanging on at 7 million. They are pimping the hell out of this movie. 3,504. I'm surprised this didn't beat Don't Worry, Darling. But then here's Bros. Premieres at 4.8 million. Wah, wah, wah. 3,350 theaters. Yeah, I mean, this was a little too gay, I think, for your average audience. If this had been an art house movie, maybe you could have made this fly. But when I say it's a little too gay, I mean, there's like a scene in the trailer where the joke is he's talking to this guy that he's really attracted to, and they're both without shirts, but you can't see anything beyond that. So as he's talking to him, they zoom out, and the other guy he's talking to has two guys doing stuff to him. And like they don't show anything, but it's clearly implied, and I don't know, that's a little uncomfortable. See someone getting a Hummer while you're talking to him in the movie, like, and then it's like, is that a gay thing? Like, you guys just have massive orgies all the time, and it's like all cool, and this is supposed to be a romantic. This is the gay lifestyle, like orgies. It sent a weird message, and it wasn't relatable at all to me. So I was just like, whoa, dude, that seems extreme. It didn't seem funny. Ardent, or JEC, I had a breakdown of the plot, Don't Worry, Darling, and it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, it's Olivia Wilde. You want to talk about someone I don't think has earned her position at all, right? I don't think she's earned that position at all. I don't know how she got to where she is. I just don't think she's competent at all. JC, is it a love story or documentary about a catching monkeypox? I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be a romantic comedy, I guess. It's called Bros, which that to me is the wrong title too, right? Because I think they're trying to co-opt the term bros, like, oh, we're gonna make this gay. Like everything about this movie screams to me, we're doing stuff to your words, and we're gonna mainstream this, and you're gonna like it, and ha ha ha, straight people. But like Eichner says, I think he says in this one, oh, where's my cursor? No, there's another headline. Let me go over to Hollywood Reporter. Well, here, Hollywood Reporter, which is a little more woke in my view, if you can imagine, than Variety and Deadline. How Bros provided a more comfortable creative experience for LGBTQ cast. Oh yeah, that's important. I'm sure glad the cast was comfortable when they shot this movie instead of being like, I don't know, entertaining. Where the hell is it? I guess I forget where I saw it. Oh, here it is. Billy Eichner star. Bros star Billy Eichner reacts to disappointing box office opening. Straight people just didn't show up. Well, no kidding. It's not a story I can relate to. It didn't come across as universal themes. It's not a universal theme to have an orgy, Billy. It may be in your world, but not for the rest of us. Like, I can't imagine talking to a girl while someone's going down on her and another guy's doing other stuff to her, and I'm like, well, it's really been great to seeing you. Even if it was like two other women, like I'm trying to have a conversation with this girl and she's getting it on with two other people. Like, that's bizarre, dude. It's not relatable. It's not funny. And maybe it's funny to you because it's so common in the circles you're in, I guess. I don't know. But why would you think straight people want to see that? I just don't get it. So, Zach, the villain in Don't Worry, Darling is based on Jordan Peterson, apparently. Yeah, I know. That was a whole controversy. JC, you can't say he hasn't earned her positions, Tony. You have no idea how many producer penises... I probably should read the rest of that. I thought you were going to make a joke about missionary. Ardent, we're in the era of intimacy coaches for actors. I mean, didn't half the guys want to play Romeo in high school because of the kiss at the end? Yeah, maybe. Although getting a boner on stage isn't going to be very exciting. Well, it'll be exciting, but for the wrong reasons. Zach, I'd also like to do a dark comedy about people with autism, just because so many movies I see on the topic are tragic dramas, and it's so done to death. Yeah, I don't know if you could make the whole movie about that, but certainly a character. Ardent, now half of them wants to kiss Romeo. But like, if you watch the Jim Parsons trailer for Spoiler Alert, which is based on a book, I mean, it's universal themes of love and romance and tragedy and dealing with stuff. And like, Bros is not that at all. Bros is like, ha ha ha, I'm having an orgy. It's like, no, dude, I don't think a lot of people can relate to that. I don't even know if most gay guys can relate to that. I mean, probably not. Probably he can because he's a good looking gay guy in, Hollywood, and he's famous and got lots of money. But, I mean, it would be the same thing if you did a straight version with some, Leonardo DiCaprio banging every girl from 22 to 25 and having orgies and then falling in love with one of the girls at the orgies, and you'd be like, well, I can't really relate to this, Leo. I don't have a private jet or orgies with beautiful supermodels. Although I would probably watch that movie. LOL, says Ardent, I'll take my rim shot on the way out. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so it's no surprise to me why Bros didn't top the box office. I don't think there's a mystery here. Zach, I mean, as a gay guy, I freely admit I'd like to try three-way sometime, but outside of that, it's not really my thing. LMAO. I can never say that. Yeah, I mean, I can't, it's probably easier for you because guys always want sex, but I can't imagine it's that common. But, it's still like, it just doesn't work. I mean, you need a shared thing for comedy. And, like, you maybe could have done a character who does that, and that would be his thing. He has ridiculous amounts of orgies, but, like even Family Guy did bits on that, but it worked for other reasons. I'm just not surprised. And that he's complaining that straight people didn't come out and see it, like, why are straight people obligated to support your movie? People don't support movies based on their gender preferences. They support movies whether or not they're good. And the appeal is a factor. So if you make a movie that just doesn't have a wide appeal, why are you surprised that not a lot of people saw it? I mean, it's got to be so good to overcome that, right? It's got to be so damn funny, like it doesn't matter that he has this scene. In which case, if that's true, maybe it is that good. You put the wrong scenes in the trailer. You should put other scenes in the trailer, and then people would have gone and seen the damn thing. But I doubt that they're in there. I think that was probably one of the big scenes, which is probably why it's in the trailer. So, if you're going to do a gay rom-com or whatever Bros is, I guess it's a comedy, then you got to make it funny first, and then the other stuff you just add in later. It has to be funny first. If you're making a comedy, it's all about the comedy. Number one, nothing else matters. Like, there are comedies out there or movies that are very funny that they unravel. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend Crank 2 because you could literally watch the movie unravel after a while. And I find it glorious. I laughed my A off watching Crank because it's just such a crazy movie. It just halfway through the second act, it just goes off the rails and never comes back. And they actually, I think, do you need something, Joan? Come here. You miss me? Come up here. It's glorious the way it just unravels. Yeah, good dog. Well, now you're being nice and calm. But look at this list. JC, Crank 2 is a great, accidentally brilliant movie. Yeah, exactly. That's part of its genius, too. And the first movie's great, too. I love the first movie as well. Number 5, Avatar. The original Avatar came in at number 5 at 4.6 million. It almost beat Bros. And that was it. Again, it's only in half the theaters. The other movies are in twice as many theaters. Avatar would have been number 2 if it was in the same amount of theaters, basically. So that shows you that all those movies, except for maybe Smile, which I think will probably have more legs than Don't Worry, Darling and The Woman King. You know, JC, I saw Crank 2 first. Crank 1 wasn't nearly as good. It's true. It's true, but it holds together. Like it's kind of an actual movie up until the very last shot. But yeah, Crank 2 is better. It's up in the ante. Number 6 was, what the hell's this movie? Ponniyin Selvan Part 1. That sounds like a Indian movie, and that did 4.1 million only in 500 theaters. That movie could have done gangbusters if it was in more theaters. Although if it's a foreign movie, maybe not. Ardent, I think at this point, Shyamalan version of Avatar: The Last Airbender would probably do better than a lot of movies these days. And that thing was trash on fire in a dumpster floating down a river. I heard. Yeah, I didn't say it. It's a shame because the cartoon's good, I hear. 7 Barbarian, which, just a wrong name. I think if they had renamed that movie, it would be doing slightly better. 8 Bullet Train, it cracked 100 million, which probably means it kind of made money, but not enough. I kind of wanted to see Bullet Train, but I'll wait. I'll wait till it hits a streaming service for nothing. DC League of Super Pets. I kind of have no interest in that movie, although it's done 91 million at this point. Top Gun Maverick, still in the top 10. Still in the top 10. Amazing. Still did 1.2 million in 1,500 theaters. I mean, it's just impressive. See How They Run is number 11. I wish this movie had done better because it looks good. I want to see it. And probably it's not doing well because people like me haven't gotten up off our A's to see it. I should go see it before it goes out of theaters, but Minions still hanging in there. And then Pearl dropped to 13. That's a shame too. Wow, that really dropped. Because that looked decent as well. Zach, I am surprised foreign movies, at least from Europe, don't make more money here. Are subtitles really that annoying to people? It kind of depends on the movie, I think. Like, if you've got a dialogue-heavy movie, yeah, it's kind of tough to follow the movie. You're kind of looking down, looking up, and looking down, looking up. It's tough to follow sometimes. If the movie is not too heavy in dialogue and, can translate the story, but a lot of those movies are ended up on Netflix, and they've been picking some really good ones. Ardent, I watched the Book of Boba Fett over the last few days. Sorry to hear that. Since I was on vacation, not actually as bad as everyone made it out to be, but adding the Mandalorian character at the end just derailed it. Yeah, I don't know. That was it's another victim of the Kathleen Kennedy versus John Favreau war that's going on there. I hear that that was another time where they purposely hired people who didn't know anything about the subject matter. So if you can imagine that. What are your qualifications? I know nothing about Star Wars. You're hired. I mean, why would you hire these people? I get the idea. Well, you don't want to hire fanboys because fanboys are a little too far out there sometimes. You want to hire competent people, but my God, when you hire somebody who has literally zero knowledge of Star Wars because you're trying to get away from Star Wars in a Star Wars TV show, like, dude, it just make no sense. So, I don't know. And The Invitation, number 14, another movie I thought would do better. The trailer looked okay. Joan, what do you want? Do you have to go out? I think I'm going to have to wrap the stream because I think Joan has to pee. So, that's about it anyway. Nothing else going on in the trades. Saturday Night Live opens season 48 with Meta Manning Brothers commentary sketch and a John Hamm cameo for anybody that's interested in the continuing demise of SNL, which hasn't been funny in forever, in my view. Terry Bradshaw says he's cancer-free after disclosing cancer treatment. He used to be in movies. Terry Bradshaw. He was in Hooper. It's another good movie you should see. Anyhow, final thoughts on the movie industry, gentlemen. Indiana Jones retro action figure coming from Hasbro. Oh boy. Arnett, yeah, I absolutely agree. They should be hiring absolute Star Wars geeks who can quote lines from characters no one else can even remember. Yeah. Yeah, it's... You can go too much the other way. Or you could just do something new. God forbid. God forbid you do something new. Oh, they should not be hiring. Right. I thought you were making a joke. SNL season premiere pokes fun at cast exits and Donald Trump. Oh, what a shock. SNL poked fun at Donald Trump again. Oh, ha ha ha. Gee, did you call him stupid and imply he's stupid? And then you said he was stupid and then he said something stupid? And, I mean, geez. Joe Biden is a talking, walking gaffe at this point. You haven't done D to him. Ardent, Jones says it's time to go. Yes. Yes, it is. And with that, I bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning in to the live stream. SNL still doing Trump skit in 2022. Yeah. I think they did finally do one Biden skit that the Variety covered, but it's like, first off, why even covering SNL like they literally cover the entire show now on Variety and Hollywood Reporter. It's ridiculous how they cover SNL sketches. Like, oh, we gotta report what happened on Saturday Night Live. Like, who cares? I mean, you want to talk about a show that has so far past its expiration dates. It's ridiculous now. It's such a sad tribute to a show that was so subversive when it started. So freaking, you cannot imagine how subversive this show was when it began. It was the show. Maybe that's why it's lasted so long. Ardent, we need a new franchise with the fans foremost in mind. Yes. Bleach Demon is here. SNL hasn't been relevant since Toonces the Driving Cat. I remember Toonces. He can drive. He just can't drive very well. That's the thing. Oh man, Bleach Demon, you missed the whole thing. And I was just about to wrap up. But thanks for dipping in. All right, guys. I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.